and essentially it's a collection of heuristics, and if you don't know it yet, I love heuristics, not only for Magic but also for life, and you'll see me coming back to this to the similarity or the applicability of heuristics on one realm in the other, and vice versa. And here it's like a collection that Mason Clark is proposing for ways to improve our game in 2021. Like, you start new year with a set of expectations, with a set of things that you want to achieve over that year, and these are just a collection of them that you might want to follow. Okay, let's get started then. There are 5 of them today, and the first one is don't be afraid to play the best deck. This is very good advice. I've heard this a ton of times across multiple podcasts and so on during this year, because it seems like historically it was really looked down upon, the people that simply play the best deck, that net deck their decks and so on. That doesn't really make sense, even more nowadays. So Magic is a game that it's really funny, and I love this kind of stuff because I like maths and all of that. But let's not focus on those potentially boring stuff. And math is for blockers, as Mitchworth typically says. So the thing is, it works like a complex system. There's a ton of people trying out different strategies, and the most successful ones will come out on top. It's like the evolution principles from Darwin, right? You have several mutations, several variations, trying to being evaluated by the world according to their fitness, to their environment, right? And the ones that are more fit, they tend to survive. So it's definitely fun and definitely interesting to keep on experimenting and brewing your stuff. For example, me, for rotating formats like Standard, I typically like to play the budget builds or variations of budget builds from Saffron Olive on MTG Goldfish. I think they're really cool, and it's a nice way to get into those formats, even if I don't want to commit that much from the get-go. So focusing so I was exploring a bit this realm of net decking and playing the best deck, but focusing specifically on playing the best deck, there are according to the author, there are two main reasons pointed out for people not playing the best deck. One of them is, I don't want to play mirrors all day. Sure, the thing is, as he says, that's like a joke, right? if you hope to win as much as possible, and that concept is explored down in the following heuristics. But if you're hoping to win as best as possible, you cannot really try to handicap yourself by just picking a different deck, right? You want to win as often as possible so that you improve your performance in Magic and so on. And the thing is, you will lose a lot, and again, that's also touched upon later, but you will lose a lot. Magic is a game of high variance, so even the best players can hope to win across their circles, like 60%, 65%, maybe that's already too crazy. So you need to accrue as much advantage as possible. So if you're not playing the best deck, you should have very good reasons not to. Then the author explores things like if your play level isn't already in the upper percentile. So let me just maximize this a bit so that you don't have problems reading it. So yeah, if your level of play is already not at its best, you're only doing yourself a disservice by not playing the best deck. Of course, there might be other concerns, like you don't have enough wild cards or something like that, but that's problems that can be addressed, and you will typically start on building more and more your collection the more time you invest in Magic and so on. Okay, so you will get out of that stage. You simply need to recognize you're at that stage. For example, me, I like to play a lot of limited. I don't focus that much on constructed, but I want to have some decks that can be slightly competitive without hindering too much my balance. So I invested on a rogues deck for standard that is currently one of the tier 1 decks, and then I built a very similar deck for historic, because there's a bunch of events happening on historic, and I plan to use that. So I have 2 decks for 2 different formats with a relatively low investment. Okay, and you start accruing a lot of wild cards, and your vault gets filled up as you play a lot of limited. That's why I typically advise people to play limited. It's really fun. As you start getting good, you start not spending that much money on playing it, because you start recycling your gems essentially, or even gaining more. So it's a really cool way to take advantage of that. Additionally, if your argument is you don't want to play mirrors all day, focusing getting back to the article, typically the best deck is corresponds to around 48% at most. There was a time when Oko was being played. It was 60% of the field. But 48%, it's like the ceiling that you can expect, unless something really crazy happens like Oko. So this is not an argument, even this, considering that is quite naive argument. It's right. It's also statistically unfounded. Okay, you're not that likely to be playing that many mirrors during the day, because people don't follow this advice. That's the thing. And you should take advantage of that while the community gets up to speed, right? And the second argument that is commonly used is, oh, there will be so much hate for this deck. The thing is, if this deck is the best deck on the battlefield, on the metagame, this deck is likely prepared to deflect the hate that it faces. Okay, you might have a bad game 1, but you can, for example, tweak your rogues deck to be more controlling and have more graveyard hate, so that you prevent yourself from being hindered by escape creatures, for example. So there are ways to circumvent their weaknesses. You should not decide not to use not to play a given deck just because the game 1 can be very bad against that deck or something like that, because that deck might be played by 5% of the metagame. So that doesn't make that much sense typically. Okay, all of the heuristics, as if you don't know, all of the heuristics should be taken with a grain of salt, as always, right? So yeah, playing the best deck is highly underrated because of all the reasons that I've talked about previously. People don't want to play the best cards. People want to express themselves through the game, and that's all perfectly fine. But if you're trying to maximize your chances of winning through the long haul, you shouldn't do that. Okay, you can still try those stuffs in arena and so on, but going to tournaments with that mindset, you might be doing yourself a disservice. Okay, heuristic number 2. You and your opponent are telling a story to each other. So yeah, this is really interesting, and it's a level up that I'm not using it at full capacity, for sure. And it's very rare the players that are doing it at full capacity or close to that, right? if you don't heard about it, Luis Scott Vargas typically talks about it from time to time. There's like several levels of players. There's like level 0, and I'm not sure what levels he actually uses. I don't remember that, but there's like level 0, which are players that learn what their cards do and start being able to play the cards. Okay, level 1, they are able to build like a strategy for their deck, for what they are trying to achieve. Level 2 is like they are already thinking about what their opponent is likely to do, so they are reading what story their opponent is trying to do. And there's like level 3, which is, okay, I know my opponent is level 2, so is trying to understand what story I'm telling, so I'll try to distort my story. I'll try to trick my opponent into doing different some stuff because I'm trying to tell a story. So you might do this from time to time, but it's really hard to do it consistently. But being able to work across these levels, it's really valuable. And of course, they depend on what level is your opponent in. So, for example, if my opponent is at level 0, I'm more likely to play as if I was using a level 1 mindset. Exactly, level 1/level 2 mindset, because I want to build my plan, but I'm not really trusting that my opponent knows what they're doing. They're just playing some cards. So I'll focus on my plan, I'll do my stuff, and I won't be paying that much attention to the opponent. So either way, those two concepts tie really well, or this concept ties with this heuristic very well. You should try to understand what kind of story are you telling your opponents during the game, by the plays that you make, by the plays that you don't make. For example, you leave mana open and you're playing a rogue's deck. Okay, what are you trying to do? For example, I can, if I leave mana open with my rogue's deck and I don't even have a counter spell or something like that, if my opponent knows what they're doing, they might refrain themselves from playing a very impactful card that taps their mana out or something like that, because it's highly likely that I'm playing at instant speed on their turn. So without having the cards, I'm sort of bluffing, having counter spells while I don't, and provided that my opponent is trying to read the story that I'm telling. Okay. Hey Partiziki, how are you? I'm good. The festivities has been, even though restrained, quite good. I was really missing being for 2 hours or more with my parents and so on. So welcome, and how are you, man? How was your Christmas? So yeah, moving on. Then there's a specific example. You can go through it, but essentially is trying to explore if your opponent doesn't block with their Bone Crusher Giant, your own Bone Crusher Giant, what might they be telling? Oh, I'm glad. That's really great to know. Oh Jesus, I just want to see the events a bit more clearly while we talk about this stuff. Okay, get over there. Okay, so yeah, and what is my opponent saying? Okay, they might be holding Great Edge or something like that. So you should try to assess. You should try to read the story that your opponent is telling, and build a range of cards that their hand could actually be, right? Because the deck strategy tells you a lot. So if there's open deck lists or something like that. Hey, Yersay, how are you, man? So yeah, you're trying to build up a story, and you should try to pay attention to that. The level 3 stuff that I was talking about previously, like which the author is calling the mind trick, it often looks cool, but you need to be really good at understanding if you're doing yourself a disservice by trying to be fancy, trying to be smart, because that might be lowering your win percentage without you even knowing it. Okay. I feel like I'm spending a lot of time on each, but I really want to ensure that these things are really digested properly. Thank you for the follow, Yersay. Thank you very much. I need to fix my audio alerts because I'm not hearing them. I have a crazy setup here, but that's something for later. So yeah, use all your mana on your turn. So yeah, this is very simple. It even shows you on the loading page of Arena, right? You should try. Essentially, this is an opportunity cost thing that you should analyze on each turn. For example, if you don't play your 3-drop on turn 3, but you want because you want your 2-drop in that turn, you need to understand that maybe on next turn you would be able to double spell with 2-drops, right? This doesn't look that level up, or for many of you at least, but it's something that can be really transformational once you get the intuition behind it. It's really the first time that you think about this concept and you play your 3-drop instead of your 2-drop, and on the next turn you double spell. It's just crazy. Even if you don't have your second 2-drop, you might draw it depending on how your deck's curve is built. So it's just crazy. Of course, this is a guiding light. It depends on what your deck is trying to do, what the rest of your hand looks like, and so on. Now, defeats don't define you. This is very, very important. I still see a ton of people who get down because they lost like 4 games in a row or something like that. The thing is, Magic is a game of variance. If you win 4 games, you should tap yourself in the back. Okay, job well done, but expect a few losses down the pipeline, because it's just natural. For example, when you can do this experiment for yourself. If you toss a coin like 10 times. So you toss a coin 10 times, you take note of it, and you do that process, you repeat that process 10 times. You won't never find an instance where you go heads, tails, heads, tails, heads, tails, heads, tails. That doesn't happen. It's much more likely for patterns, supposed patterns to emerge, or at least sequences of wins and sequences of losses to emerge, than just be like always switching between heads and tails. So you should expect losses. You should prepare your mind to it, and actually look at losses as a way to learn. For example, these streams that I do. I started them because I wanted to improve my level of Magic, and this way I'm recording the streams, and besides putting them on YouTube and so on, I actually review my stream at 2x speed, not only looking for highlights because I find some of the moments quite funny, but because I want to see, okay, at this moment, what could I do differently? This game I lost, so could I change things up? Could I build my deck slightly differently? So you look at losses as an opportunity to learn. If you just win, that doesn't really help you on learning, because you're more likely than not playing against people who are in a few levels below your skill level, right? So yeah, it's really important to try to understand this, to ingrain this, to make this intuitive, and try to look at losses as opportunities for improvement, like what Alfred says on Batman, right? When you fall down, it's like it's just another opportunity for you to get up. And lastly, the last one is be the eternal sophomore. This is a concept that I like to apply on my daily life, because if you are humble, you're more prone and more aware to learning opportunities. Okay, even if you are better than someone at playing Magic, you still have a lot to learn from that person. For example, we were talking about the levels of play skill. You can still learn on playing better your strategy. For example, you can try to adjust your gameplay because of that. And not only that, everyone has a different experience. Everyone is a snowflake. I know that's cheesy, but everyone is different, and you get to learn from everyone. But for that, you need to be humble. You cannot be really cocky about yourself. It's good to be confident, but you can be confident and humble. That's actually something that politicians nowadays really lack. And the key thing is be humble and be exposed to learning opportunities. So attend events, go to your local game store, and so on. And yeah, that's about it. You will find plenty of opportunities to questioning, listening, and learning. For example, the instances that I learned more from playing paper Magic were when I lost, and I restarted playing earlier this year. And I lost a few games and because I lost them very quickly, my opponents had the opportunity to teach me how should you play against that deck, what sideboard deck should you use, stuff like that. Okay, so that's really interesting. And to finalize, Mason Clark focus on that point that Magic is not a sprint, it's a marathon. You are accruing value each step of the way. And even if you have a bad day, the next day might be better, and you'll get to increase slightly your average win rate across time, and that's how you improve, right? That's really funny. I was trying with these sound alerts earlier this week. There's some, because I'm Portuguese, there's some really funny in Portuguese, but they don't really might not make as much sense as to foreigners. But either way, there's plenty of in there. I truly hope that you learned something from the article today, because I sure did. So if you want to find the link for it, it is in the About section just below the video. If you enjoyed this kind of content, make sure to leave a like, to subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell icon so you know when the next one comes up. Also, let me know in the comment section down below what are you working on, or what do you want to work on to take your game to the next level. I also stream on Twitch, so if you want to interact with me live, head over to twitch.tv/DiogoJapinto. We're building a truly awesome community in there, and we would love to have you around. Thank you for joining, and see you next time. Planeswalking out!